Welcome to Friday, November 11th, 2022. It's Veterans Day. This podcast brought to you by Cowboy State Daily. Check them out at cowboystatedaily.com. And Chugwater Chili, the gourmet spice of Western life. Don't forget to use that checkout code ChugwaterDon for 20% off. It's looking so cold over the next week, you're not going to want just one pot of chili. Trust me, you're going to need a big pot or a couple. Thank you, veterans, on this Veterans Day. The door's been left open. What door, you say? The door to the Great White North. The pattern is going to easily bring cold, dry air out of Canada into a lot of the United States over the next 7 to 10 days. Now, the air mass initially is going to be pretty dry. You always have to remember where the air is coming from, because that's the weather you're going to end up eventually getting. This time of year, the natural amount of humidity in the air in central and western Canada is low, because the colder the air is, the less water vapor that can be in that air. So when you get these air masses coming out of Canada, unless you can tie Pacific moisture to this system, you're just not going to get much precipitation. This is going to be the issue through the next 7 to 10 days. So the Great White North will bring cold surges. This is going to result in December temperatures, December-like temperatures, here in the middle of November. We're going to see some snow chances, a few flurries for some of you Monday into Tuesday, a little bit of a bigger system may threaten us with some snow late next week. We'll show that to you. And yes, folks, way too early to talk about that Thanksgiving Day forecast. I'm getting requests for that, but we got to see how things shake out before we can start talking about that important Thanksgiving period coming on up. Very wintry scenes across the Intermountain West with this change in the weather. Snow was pretty good, significant up into the mountains and into the Black Hills. And snowpack numbers continue to look very good. Today's satellite photo shows a lot of the West basically in clear conditions. We have a little system right here that produced some snow showers and flurries. We have a little low right here, just off the Pacific Northwest coast. We'll show you where that's going to track. But generally speaking, not a lot going on across the Intermountain West. There's that low just off the coast of Washington and Oregon. What it's going to do is kind of slide this way while this low continues to move into the Great Lakes and Midwest, spreading some winter cheer into the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, and eventually New England by this weekend. Now, this is by Saturday afternoon. You can see that low over Northern California, but it's going to head this way. This up here is going to head this way, but there's going to be a temporary little push of slightly warmer air into Wyoming and Colorado for Saturday into early Sunday. So the warmest days are actually going to be Saturday and for the first half of Sunday. But we're going to see that low spin up again over northern Minnesota here, and the air aloft is coming right out of central and western Canada into the Rockies again, and this is by Monday. This will drag in a little bit of front and a few flurries as well. But again, the source region of air is right there. So it's going to be a pretty dry, pretty cold air mass moving in, and that cold air mass is going to continue to spread south and east along and east of the Continental Divide. There's going to be a little bit of shower activity with this southern low sneaking through those areas, but mainly those southern areas, and there you can see the cold air coming on in. This is the precipitation forecast through Monday evening. So we're going to have a little bit of light snow up here in Montana, the Dakotas, and far northern Wyoming, a little bit in the Pacific Northwest, and that's where that low is going to track into Texas, Oklahoma, bringing some wintry conditions, cold rain, a little bit of snow in the northern areas, but across the rest of the Intermountain West here, really not much going on here through the weekend, just cold. And there you can see the snowfall forecast. As we go into next week, this is by next Friday. That big ridge puts us in the fridge. It's in the eastern Pacific. So the vortex up here north of Hudson Bay will just continue to send more surges of cold air south. Now, when you see a pattern like this elongated area of low pressure, you're going to have some really cold Canadian air sliding in, and you may have, there might be a little bit of Pacific moisture from the Gulf of Alaska getting into this system. And if it does, combined with the cold air, look at these temperature anomalies for next Friday. Wow, that's cold. That's really cold. And if you're going to be looking at the cold over the next week, this is the average temperature anomaly over the next week. So you can see other than the southeastern United States, it's going to be cold just about everywhere with the bullseye for Montana, North Dakota, northern Wyoming, up into southern Canada there. But that green area getting down to I-70 and pushing further south and east into the Corn Belt. And there's going to be some snow with that second system. I do think the computer modeling is over predicting the snow here and the rain, the precipitation here, but I do think late next week we may have just enough snow to cause some travel concerns and some accumulations on the plains. And there you can see it. Again, this doesn't look like a big snow event, but you take that really cold Canadian air, and if you get a little bit of Pacific moisture in it and you get some upslope, you're going to get some wintry weather with it. The Eastern Pacific Oscillation, you can see how strongly negative it is right now. Very strongly negative into the middle to the end of next week. Then notice it goes into a positive phase, then starts going back down again. What does that mean? What it means is this episode of cold that's coming for the 7 to 10 day period will likely have a pause. And after a certain amount of time, there will be somewhat of a warming trend in the west. But notice it goes back into a negative phase again. So we're not buying a long-term warm-up, but a short-term warm-up after this cold phase. The Arctic Oscillation is also trending negative as we get a little bit further out past a week or so. That's a cold signal. So we continue to see more cold signals and warm signals here during the second half of November. A quick La Nina update, a sea surface temperature update. The La Nina continues here, but it's starting to get chipped away a little bit by some warmer temperatures right here. Notice up in the Gulf of Alaska, we've seen the development of a cold pool develop after it's been warmer than average up there lately. You can count on this cold pool mainly be due to the fact we've had these big storms go up through the Gulf of Alaska in the North Pacific, and that, in a way, cools off the sea surface temperatures. Same thing that hurricanes do. Hurricanes will cool sea surface temperatures. The stormy weather in the North Pacific here lately has cooled things off a little bit up there. We don't think this cold pool will grow, though. Probably the warm pool will start to grow back in eventually over the next few weeks. Have yourself a great Veterans Day, a great Friday, and a great weekend. Bundle up. Going to be chilly for a while.